It's time for the Court Report, our bi-weekly segment with the Upper Midwest Law Center. They are a nonprofit public interest law firm on the front lines, dedicated to defending constitutional freedoms and the rule of law.
Love having the Court Report on this radio show, and we generally have Doug Seaton come in, the president. He cannot be here today. And I don't know, I'm like a shark with blood in the water. I'm so excited. We have Rachel Paulose. I'm getting it right. Paulose, like St. Paul. I promise I get it. I'm sorry. Paulose, on with us. When you get your background, I'll let everybody know why. What is your background in law? And you work for Upper Midwest Law Center, right?
I do work for Upper Midwest Law Center as senior litigation attorney. And I've been an attorney for over 25 years, including 15 years in public service. Most of that time I spent as a prosecutor at the U.S. Department of Justice and the U.S. Securities and Exchange Commission, and also had the privilege of serving as U.S. attorney during the Bush administration for the District of Minnesota from 2006 to 2008.
Okay, so this is why, to me, this is like blood in the water. So you...
Don't say that, Al.
I don't mean this in a bad way. I love talking about the stuff Upper Midwest Law Center is doing, and we'll get to some cases if we have the time today. But with you here, if you don't mind, I presume you have a very unique look legally about what's happening in Minnesota in the last 3 or 4 weeks, right? I mean, you're following along, right?
I am following along. I have written and spoken about the current events in Minnesota. Yes.
All right. So I want to start from the beginning because it seems that we don't. We always start. Evidently, this conversation started with the shooting of Renee Good. I think it started before that in this radio announcer's humble opinion. And what I mean by that is the legal justification to become a sanctuary city. Is that a thing? Can a city like Minneapolis just say, we're not following that rule? Can they do that?
Okay, so first of all, you are starting in the right place, in my opinion now.
Thank you.
And the reason we are having this breakdown and chaos in Minneapolis is because the city officials are not cooperating with federal officials to enforce federal law. And we've declared Minneapolis and St. Paul sanctuary cities. And so this open defiance of the ability of the Department of Homeland Security to enforce federal law is the starting point for all of our problems. Everything that ICE is doing in terms of focusing on criminal illegal aliens, particularly those with violent offender histories, and deporting those individuals is perfectly in line with the Constitution, with the laws and statutes of the United States, and with their responsibilities as federal agents.
Okay, so let me take their side, because as I understand it, this is what the mayor said, ICE has the legitimate laws to go get these bad guys and take them out. But state and Minneapolis, in this case, Minneapolis police officers and the mayor, they don't have to help federal agents. It's not illegal for them to not help. It may get us in the spot we're at, but is Minneapolis breaking a law by not helping? Does that make sense, my question?
Yes, there are two responses to that. And one is that the federal government really occupies the field here, and without getting too far down into the weeds in constitutional law, there is cooperation between the federal government and the state and local governments all the time to enforce federal law, and we do it on cases involving human trafficking and drug smuggling and gun offenses. And so the notion that the city wants to carve out one area of the law that it will not assist the federal government is really astonishing. But secondly, it is not a matter of simply not helping the federal government. The danger here is that officials are actively obstructing the ability of federal officials to do their job. So, for example, when an official says something like, call 911 when you see an ICE agent, that is not helpful. That is not standing by and being silent. That is actively obstructing the ability of federal agents to do their job.
All right, fair enough. And in my opinion, once you do that, you call yourself a sanctuary city. It calls to people that may or may not have the paperwork they need to be here. It calls you there because they're saying, we're not going to touch you. When that happens, then the really bad guys, the people you're talking about with the offenses, can say, we can come here. They're not looking for us any. We're going to be fine. If I get arrested for something, and as an example, other cities are doing this, you get picked up, you're not here legally, and you're having a crime, a violent crime, the ICE guys got 48 hours. Come pick them up. They pick them up in jail. There are no guns. Everybody's been frisked. They're safe to take them out. Minneapolis is saying that's not our business. They let them go. They're back out in the community doing whatever they're going to do. Now you have to arrest them in the streets. That's where this issue comes. Well, are they doing it correctly? Now I ask you this, and it's the Renee Good situation. Just my opinion. If the Minneapolis police were helping ICE, and what I mean by that, they were running the crowd control while ICE sent the guys in to go get whoever they were getting that day, then Renee Good being parallel parked or perpendicularly parked in the street would have been for the Minneapolis police officers to take care of, and not an ICE agent who generally doesn't deal with such things. They're just going out. You know, am I wrong here that is literally was their job to do, and they neglected to do it, whether they're told not to or not? Isn't a traffic offense the local police officer's job to do?
All police powers, including traffic offenses for local and state government, are delegated to local and state governments. And so crowd control is the job of the local police. And so I'll be very interested in what this investigation unveils. And I think, we need to see where the facts lead. And hopefully that will be a comprehensive analysis of everything that happened and the obvious breakdown, because anytime there's a loss of life, that's a tragedy, as the president said this week. But there were a number of factors that led to that, including, I think, the lack of cooperation from local officials, which makes me sad, because I had the privilege of working with local officers, including from the Minneapolis Police Department, and they were outstanding officers who helped us bring really important cases on big matters. And so it'd be great to have the cooperation on immigration.
I would say it's not the individual officers making this call. This is someplace higher up there. I don't think these officers have all of a sudden decided they don't want to help. I don't believe that. But let me ask you a couple of more instances that come up. We saw some Jake Lang guy, evidently a huge right-wing influence. I never heard of this cat before, but he came and was going to do a protest about fraud. And he brought his 30 or 40 people, whoever showed up. I mean, this guy, whoever he was, they knew he was coming. The anti-ICE guys were going to be out for another day. The governor gets the, the National Guard ready in case there's an issue. And I'm sorry, I didn't see one police officer in between those groups. That group, somebody beat this Jake Lang, in the head, needed 12 stitches, something, and they bloodied this guy up. And I didn't see any police officers. Is this something where the Fed government comes in and says, hey, wait a minute, you at least got to get people on the streets? Am I nuts? I didn't see an officer.
So what I'm worried about, what we're seeing on the streets of Minneapolis and St. Paul is just a lack of attentiveness to local crowd control and protection of people exercising their First Amendment rights when the government disagrees with the political speech that those people are voicing. And so I don't know the particulars of the situation you're describing. And again, I'm sure that that's going to be the focus of an investigation, but crowd control is the job of local police. That is not what ICE is on the street for.
You bring up two things quick. Your First Amendment right to free speech. You have it. I'm a big free speecher myself, but aren't we more in the ability to the freedom to peacefully gather, to peacefully protest? Isn't the word peacefully in there? When I watch on TV and people firing fireworks at police officers, when I see them spitting at them, when I see them throwing whatever, ice balloons or whatever, this is not a First Amendment right. Demonstrating, I got no problem. Hang a sign, walk around, that's peaceful. Isn't peaceful in there? It has to be a peaceful protest.
there needs to be a peaceful protest. And you're right. If people are throwing projectiles, if they're assaulting officers, if they're doing other, and you're right, the word peaceably is right in the First Amendment. It says that the right of the people peaceably to assemble shall not be abridged. So that's a predicate towards assembly and towards exercising your First Amendment rights. And so I hope we can just take the temperature down, Al, and that everybody can.
Well, I'm hoping if anybody hears this, I hope they're hearing you say this is against the law. The idea that you can go home, have a sign and you want to stand outside and take video, no one here has that issue. It's getting involved, and then just so you know, you're crossing a line, which means you could get arrested. What I'd really like to do, if you could, after this break, I've got to go to break, is I'd like to ask you about the church invasion, for lack of a better term. We literally had an old CNN anchor there filming it, chatting over with it. And for some reason, they don't seem to believe they did anything except protest peacefully. I want to ask you the legal ramification that there's all kinds of laws, the rights thrown out that they probably broke. I don't know, but I'm talking to Rachel and I want to find out her thoughts. Can we do that?
Yes.
All right. From the Upper Midwest Law Center, it's Rachel Paulose on the Al Travis Show.
Are you tired of government overreach and the constant threat to your constitutional rights? The Upper Midwest Law Center is your legal sword and shield. We're a nonprofit law firm fighting every day to defend free speech, religious liberty, and the rule of law. We secure landmark victories that restore school neutrality, protect property rights, and hold government accountable. Our mission is to ensure liberty endures for all Minnesotans. So if you or your business is facing a constitutional violation, we want to hear from you. Learn more and support our work at umlc.org. Don't need to ask him his opinion more than once. Al Travis on the Al Travis Show.
So lucky to have her. She's with the Upper Midwest Law Center. She's Rachel Paulose, and I thank her for being here. When I want to talk about the church invasion is what I'm calling it. What happens when two of your rights come against each other, run up against each other? Obviously, the folks at church on Sunday had a right to be there and not be bothered. Then you have the right of, I'm putting the peaceful protest in question marks. You went out of your way to make it a thing. But the other one I want to throw at you is Don Lemon was there, from an old CNN anchor. And he came out right after, because I think people found out he was going to be in some trouble. Hey, I'm just being a news guy. I got to do news things. But someone saved the video of him live talking before the incident happened. He was talking about the people in charge, and it was a secret thing they're going to do, and go into a place where people don't expect him, and he'll bring it to you live. Can the press literally sit with the bank robbers before the robbery saying, okay, we know it's coming. I'm going to cover it live because I'm a news guy, and be a part of it and then say I'm a news guy? It doesn't seem like that's how that works. And if a news guy finds out the robberies happen, doesn't he have some right to say, cops, this is going to happen? Am I missing something, Rachel?
I think you're talking about the conspiracy statute, Al. And so I think...
but if you're a news guy, you can do that. It's the news, freedom of the press.
Freedom of the press doesn't mean you get to break the law.
Okay.
And in this case, there is a law under 18 USC 248 that guarantees freedom of access to religious houses of religious worship. And so anyone who interferes with the ability of people who are just exercising their First Amendment rights of religious freedom is liable under this statute, including for criminal penalties. And so they can be jailed for up to 3 years. They can be fined for up to $10,000 to $25,000, and there is a private right of action. So I'm very encouraged to see that the Assistant Attorney General for the Civil Rights Division, Harmeet Dillon, who's just been doing a fantastic job, has already opened an investigation into this. But I think there's also a possibility that the parishioners of this church, have a right to exercise a private lawsuit here, and should be looking at whether they want to exercise their options under that statute as well, under that federal law.
Two things on that. Again, all the videos I've seen, I didn't see any police show up. I didn't see the police get the names and numbers of everybody that was in the church that shouldn't have been. There was no investigation on, as far as I can tell, on the police side, Minneapolis side of what's going on. And the Attorney General said he saw nothing but a peaceful protest. He said there are no laws broken there. Is this if you're breaking my federal law, my federal rights, does that have to come from the U.S. attorney to go after these people? That couldn't have been done in Minneapolis and St. Paul by the local Attorney General here and say, hey, that's just wrong. Can they not do that?
Well, I think there were potentially state and local laws broken as well. But in this case, I'm relieved that the U.S. attorney, that the Assistant Attorney General for Civil Rights out of D.C. are looking at this because they're looking at it with fresh eyes and an unbiased perspective and a determination to see this thing through.
But doesn't that make it so much harder? And I guess what I mean by that, I don't believe there's a list of names of the 25, 30, whatever it is. I guess you can watch a video and count the 30 people that showed up and did such things. There's no official list of who they are. So now I presume back when you were attorney, you have to come in. You have to use facial recognition software. You have to go through the process of finding out who these 30 people were. I mean, it sure seems like it would have been easier if we collected the data the day of.
Evidence is always best when it's gathered fresh and on the scene. That's absolutely true. However, in this case, there is video and there are known perpetrators, alleged perpetrators, and you just start with the people that you know with and that you know of, and you start asking questions and you start asking for names and identities of people that they were associated with. And believe me, federal agents are very good at untangling webs
Okay.
and alleged conspiracies involving more than one person. And this certainly did involve more than one person.
All right, I only have about a minute and a half to go, but let me ask you this. I think one thing that a lot of my right-wing friends are concerned with is we see the fraud. We've seen a lot of fraud. We've seen a lot of these sort of actions that we just know instinctively are not right. But it seems to take so long to see anyone be held accountable. You almost lose hope is maybe the right word for it, right? I mean, I guess 7 people have been in Feeding Our Futures now. That was in 2000 who are getting held again. Is that how long these civil rights things will take as well? Are we talking years to get this prosecuted?
So bearing in mind your time constraints, civil rights investigations, and particularly a violent obstruction, as what we seem to have witnessed at the church this past weekend, is more like a violent crime that should take less than a year to investigate. Frauds, especially those running into the billions of dollars, can take years. They're complicated to unravel, involving a lot of bank records and a lot of sophisticated and, as we know, overseas records that are hard to obtain and untangle.
All right, fair enough. Rachel, I can't thank you enough for coming to the program. Thank you for coming to this with me. I know you got a lot going on at the Upper Midwest Law Center to take the time here. When you come back on next time we get dug in, we'll talk about the stuff you guys are actually working on. But thank you for coming to this program.
It was my pleasure. Thank you for having us.
I appreciate you a ton. It's the Al Travis Show, Upper Midwest Law Center, and the Court Report.
That's the Court Report with the Upper Midwest Law Center, with some insights into their mission to defend liberty and the rule of law. For more information on the cases and issues we discussed today, and to learn how you can support their fight, visit umlc.org. We'll see you in 2 weeks for the next Court Report.